Professor Food Brian Todd, M.I.T. degreed food scientist and health professor, here to talk about eating around the holidays. Can you get down on the turkey and the ham this year during the holidays without feeling guilty? Good morning, Professor Food Brian Todd. How are you?
Great, Jeff. Good morning.
Boy, I tell you,
you can.
This is the time of year when everybody likes to starve themselves 3 weeks before the holiday because I'm going to enjoy the stuffing and mashed potatoes. So right now I'm eating celery and boiled chicken and I'm having a boring diet. Boy, that's what you hear everywhere you go, man. But according to you and the stuff I've been reading at professorfood.com online, you can enjoy that Thanksgiving holiday without starving yourself before Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Absolutely, Jeff. The whole key is science, and I'm a scientist. I want to make this clear to everybody listening. I come from M.I.T, one of the top science schools in the world, and my joke is a nutritionist is not qualified to talk about nutrition. They don't have any science, Jeff. They have opinion, and I was in the pharmacy department in Houston where I live. I walked out of the nutrition department, and I talked to the president and said, I have to get into a place where they talk science, and it was in the pharmacy department. So everything I'm going to give you is science, and you're going to understand why things work.
All right, so what we're going to discuss here is not opinion. We are talking about proven scientific fact.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about let's talk about the holiday foods first, Professor.
Yes.
What's the, we always say, well, what's the good things we can have at the table? What are the bad things? What should we avoid if we really are conscious about our weight and how we look? And
number one thing to avoid is the carbs, and I'm going to tell you why. Carbohydrate equals sugar. Makes no difference, Jeff, if it's brown organic rice or if it's a soda pop. And I know what you're thinking, but the South Beach glycemic index, what are you talking about? Glycemic index doesn't work. It's scientifically wrong. 15 minutes difference between the brown organic rice hitting your bloodstream as regular sugar as the soda. So my joke to all the physicians and all the patients are, you get just as fat 15 minutes later. So the biggest thing everybody needs to understand is a carb is a carb is a carb. They are poison. They will turn you diabetic and turn you fat. But I've got solutions for it because I know everybody's craving carbs, right?
No, man, especially if there's mashed potatoes on the table. That's one of my weaknesses. Mashed potatoes.
Well, I have the mashed potatoes, but here's what you do. They are carbs. I have cream and butter in them, so the fat fulfills the appetite. Now, here's a few other things with carbohydrates. Couple things people need to know. Memorize this number, 20. Every 20 calories of carbohydrate is a teaspoon of sugar in disguise every 5 grams. And what this means, Jeff, is that no-fat yogurt you may be eating for breakfast, thinking you're doing good to either yourself or your kid, has 120 calories of carbs. 120 divided by 20 is 6. Would you ever take 6 teaspoons of sugar, dump it in a glass of water, mix it up, and go, wow, I just ate healthy?
Oh,
of course not. Next thing you have to know is 1 teaspoon of sugar is in the system. When I started this years ago, it was how many teaspoons of sugar have to be in our system? We're told carbohydrates. I calculated it out. It was 5 millimoles per deciliter. Came out to, I'm an engineer by training. I go, what practical number is this? The heck is, I don't want that term. 1 teaspoon of sugar. Fell off my chair, gave it to a colleague, said, calculate this. Is in your 5 quarts of blood over a gallon 1 lousy teaspoon of sugar? And the answer was, yep, you're right. Then I looked in the journals for how many teaspoons of sugar is the average American eating, Jeff? 100. So here's the situation in America. 1 teaspoon of sugar in the system, average American is eating 100 when you look at the corn and the pasta and the oatmeal and the brown rice and the bagels. Where's all that sugar go? Well, you look at insulin. This is the Atkins thing. Goes to body fat. Insulin, which is generated as a response to carbohydrates, is a fat storage hormone right out of the textbook of medical physiology. So the more carbs you eat, Jeff, the fatter you get.
So in other words, interrupting here, I'm better off having a bagel with real cream cheese instead of the Philly, I don't want to discount any product, but there are a lot of fat-free cream cheeses out there, but I buy the
I don't even know, Jeff, how it's cheese when there's no fat. I don't understand this. Cheese, by definition, is all fat, and the answer is yes. Fat cannot go to fat is the next myth that people are just highly misled on. Everybody thinks, I eat fat, it goes right to fat. And that would be a good guess, but it doesn't. Here's why. The saturated fat you eat from the butter, cheese, eggs gets burned for energy first. Your body wants to burn fat first. See, Mother Nature's natural fat-burning system is you're supposed to be burning your own body fat. But by eating the carbohydrate, you short-circuit that. You get the carbohydrate staying in the bloodstream, but it's supposed to come from your own body fat along with the protein you eat, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the fat gets either burned for energy or the essential fats, that's the parent omega-6 and the parent omega-3, they're in every one of your 100 trillion cell membranes. Half of every cell is fat. Your brain is 60% fat. All of your hormones, the sexual ones, are fat, so women have a lot of hormonal problems. You're not getting enough fat, ladies. Fat is critical. And here's the big one. Well, Professor, if you're telling people to eat all this fat, it's going to give you a heart attack and clog your arteries, right? Wrong. 1994, Lancet, world's premier medical journal, published out of London, published an analysis of a clogged artery, high-resolution chromatography. There's no saturated fat in a clogged artery, Jeff. Let me repeat it so everybody listens. There is no saturated fat in a clogged artery, and when I lecture the cardiologists, their mouths drop. Now, here's the situation in America, Jeff. If a board-certified cardiologist doesn't know what's clogging your arteries, giving you a heart attack, where does that leave the average American? Out in the cold. That's why I give the science.
What does cause that plaque buildup?
Excellent question. It is the adulterated, about 60 to 70% of what's in that clogged artery is the adulterated cooking oils from your supermarket. That's the canola oil, all the oils you fry in, all the margarine at the cooking store because it's adulterated. See, the thing is, the frying people at the restaurants have to stop the oxygen transfer. You cannot have bagels and pasta and, brown rice smelling like fish that's gone bad, right? Fish has about a 3-day shelf life. So they ruin it. They adulterate it. That's called a hydrogenated oil, a trans fat. They stop the oxygen transfer. The problem is when you take these oils, they're used in frying or baking and all the baked goods, your cells can't transfer oxygen. That does a few things. Number one, it makes you exhausted. Number two, it makes your hormones not work right, so the insulin resistance goes through the roof. That's why everybody in America is becoming insulin resistant, type 2 diabetes today. You need to put back into your system unprocessed, organic, the omega-6 component, not the omega-3 like everybody's talking about. That's the fish oil and the flax oil. Everybody in America is overdosing on it. Your skin has no omega-3 in it whatsoever, and the lining of your artery, it's called the intima, is 100% omega-6. So all these recommendations about take lots of omega-6, take lots of fish oil,
all right, so where would we find omega-6? Because I'm just now clicking, I'm looking at all these different butter spreads that are at the grocery store that say now containing omega-3.
You do not want any spreads at all. You have to put these back in as a supplement, and part of my Science of Great Health program tells people what to ask at the health food store. The people in the supermarket have to have long shelf life. They don't care about your health or physiologically what you need. So in my program, I give people exactly what to ask for at the health store because most of them don't know either. The people in the health store don't know what to give you. They're all giving the wrong advice, and I just spoke at 2 big functions screaming at the physicians for being dead wrong with recommending fish oil. Fish oil will kill you.
Well, you may smack me down on this one. I'm a big fan of olive oil. I got 3 different brands, and we only use real butter in the house. I don't buy any of that.
Excellent.
Yeah,
olive oil is also good, Jeff. It's a 0. Now, before you go, well, 0's no good. Yeah, it's real good compared to a -20. A trans fat like margarine or the adulterated cooking oil at any of the fast food restaurants, even at the fine restaurants, is a -20. Going to a 0 is great. There's nothing bad in olive oil, but it contains no parent omega-6 or parent omega-3. So it's a 0. It's not a positive. It's not a negative. You need the positives to put back in different oils. Sesame oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, but they have to be organic, they have to be unprocessed, and they have to be the high omega-6, not the high omega-9 for frying like all the restaurants made them do. It's a tough state of affairs. That's why I spend so much time in my program talking about what you have to ask for.
Let me ask you a question since we're really here to talk about holiday foods. One of the big food trends that's come around in the last 10 to 15 years is that wonderful, and I love it, deep fried turkey. Now, if we're going to do that, I've always recommended peanut oil because of the heat and the smoking point of that. Now let's talk about that peanut oil and frying a turkey. Is deep fried turkey bad for you?
Nope. As long as you use the proper oil. And you hit it right in the head. You're one of the few people that know this stuff. Peanut oil is excellent. Palm oil is excellent. Lard is excellent, and my favorite is organic coconut oil. None of these oils become bad. They don't become rancid. They can take the high heat and don't change. The problem with the food manufacturers is they're expensive, and everybody is into nonsense when it comes to your health. They've got low fat, everything wrong, and they're all using the wrong oils. But if you use any of those oils, peanut oil is just dandy. And by the way, the skin of the turkey, the skin of the chicken, It's all protein. It's not even fat. Most people don't know that. Most physicians don't either.
Oh, back up. You just made my day.
Eat all.
Wait a minute, because I'm tired of throwing away fried chicken skin. That's my favorite.
No reason whatsoever.
Wow.
Now, I don't use a lot of breading on this. I use minimal breading, and it tastes just delicious. You can even pop it in with no breading because the skin tastes so darn good if you eat it. So there's smart ways to minimize those carbs. And because the saturated fat, like I was talking before, doesn't give you a heart attack, you want to make the cream pies with more of the heavy whipping cream and less sugar. You don't want milk. You want either half and half or heavy whipping cream because it's all fat. I make the best chocolate cream pie with almost no carbs in it. People get full. You're never bloated. Here's another big thing with the carbs, Jeff. For every ounce of carbohydrate you eat, you need 3 ounces of water. So my joke to people is if you want to become a human sponge, eat the bagel, eat the pasta, eat the oatmeal. You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. You stop eating lots of those carbs, you feel like a different person within a day.
Well, let's talk about that whipping cream for a moment because around the holidays we got the pumpkin pie, we got sweet potato pie, Mom's homemade apple pie, and here comes this store-bought whipped cream, and you tell everybody at the table that's got the same ingredients as Vaseline.
It's awful.
And they think you're crazy, but I'm right. Am I?
Oh, you're absolutely right. The big joke is margarines are considered a plastic. When you look at a chemical engineer analyzing what's in it, it's the same ingredients as plastic. It's awful. You want what nature gave us before some idiot came along and said, don't eat any fat. All the protein, by the way, is tied to fat. The best steak, lots of marbling, right?
Right.
Fish, lots of oil. Eggs, you got the yolk, you got the egg whites. And by the way, the yolk is 50% more protein than the whites. Nobody knows that one either. Never, ever, ever throw away the yolk. But Mother Nature always gave us protein tied to fat. There's a reason, because the protein, even though it's critical for you, doesn't fill you up. You could do a test. You could take 6 egg whites, eat them, you're starving. Put in 2 yolks, you're full. Nature will not be fooled, Jeff, and all the science is so consistent, you just get people. See, here's the problem. It sounds good and it's dead wrong. Now, this happens in science all the time, in physics, electrical engineering. The problem is when something is wrong in those fields, it's immediately thrown in the trash. But because the body is so good, wrong nutritional advice and wrong medical advice don't show up immediately, so they can never get blamed. If I design the building wrong, remember, the engineering background I have, I can't be wrong. You die. The building falls down immediately. If I give you the wrong nutritional advice, you don't die immediately. 10 years later, you're sick. See, that's the problem. They have it too easy.
Talking on the air with Professor Food Brian Todd, and again I want to stress he's an M.I.T. degreed food scientist and a health professor, and we're talking about and getting off on all kinds of wonderful tangents about the holidays and what we can eat, what we can't eat.
Let me tell you the number one food, Jeff, protein.
Stick with the proteins.
Here's why. That means all the turkey, all the steak, all the chicken, all the ham. 70% of the protein you eat gets burned up in its own digestion. This is right out of basic medical biochemistry. It's out of Stryder's biochemistry. This is right in the medical textbooks. I have never seen published for the popular press by any of these so-called nutritionists, ever.
But while we're having our proteins, though, it is okay, though, to have a little mashed potatoes. It is okay to have some of that stuffing.
Absolutely. You just make it last on the list, Jeff. I don't make carbs first. I make them last. I like potato. I like the mashed potatoes, too, but I put the butter and cream in there. That fills me up. Or I have a baked potato with butter and sour cream, and I eat half the potato. Of course, the skin. There's about 3 teaspoons of carbohydrate, and I'm done. You don't need much. But the protein goes to every half. Remember that cell membrane? Half is fat, the other half is protein. 100 trillion cells. All your muscle, 50% of your body weight, protein. All of your enzymes, all of your antibodies. Anybody telling you to minimize protein needs to be shot and needs to get their tail into a medical library and learn some science.
What?
We are in a very, very bad state in America where especially women are told to minimize protein, eat lots of carbs, and eat no fat. The two essential ingredients are the fats and the protein. Your body can't make them. Carbohydrate, actually your body makes. It's called glucogenesis. Remember I told you before, from your own body fat, along with the protein you eat, especially ladies, keeps that 1 teaspoon of sugar constant in the bloodstream. There is no reason to be eating 4 to 6 times a day to balance your blood sugars. That is insane. If you do that, your pancreas is designed to produce insulin twice, Jeff. You will turn yourself diabetic. I warned about this 15 years ago. I said diabetes for 99.9% is a created disease unknowingly, and now it's the number one disease in America. It's the number one disease around the world. There's no end in sight. And again, the recommendations are still ridiculous by the medical profession to stop this. Nothing genetic whatsoever. It's what you're eating.
Professor Food, while we're on this subject about let's go ahead and eat the proteins, let's eat the fats instead of the fat-free foods. I just want to interject and say, along with all this or any diets, it is important, though, to have some kind of exercise routine. That doesn't mean you have to. All right, you're laughing at me because I do my daily walk. Okay, so is that false?
You can do it. I'm a black belt in Aikido, which is a martial art from Japan. I like Argentine tango. But the real answer is exercise not needed in the least. Proof of this is you have tons of people exercising their tail off, dying of a heart attack all the time. And actually, there was a book out called The Myth of Exercise. It was by Dr. Solomon, cardiologist, 1980. I was amazed they even published it. Looked at populations of runners around the world. The runners actually had more heart attacks than the people doing almost nothing. Unless you're a total sloth, never moving from the couch, you don't need to worry about exercise. And again, you can look at your common house cat, Jeff. I've got 2. They do nothing except sleep all day long and eat lots of protein and fat because they're a carnivore. They're an obligate carnivore. They're not supposed to eat any carbs. You can kill them from doing that. They don't gain an ounce. This whole thing with exercise came about because people were told to make carbohydrates the basis of your diet. Carbohydrates make you fat. And the only response to getting so fat from the carbs is, well, Jeff, you got to start living in the gym. You better be able to make it a second job.
Well, all right, then what about weight?
Absolutely wrong.
What about weight training? Because when I'm talking about
weight training is the best thing to do. You do not need any cardio, quote, program because your heart's already operating at 100% efficiency. This is the biggest mistake with exercise. I hear this. I die over laughing. Weight training is excellent because it can shape you, and that's what I do. I have a program, I call it Exercise Less. It's just 10 minutes to 12 minutes twice a week. That's it. You will not believe the results you can get. You don't need to be living in a gym, but the key is weights with overloading so your muscle responds to it. That is the only thing to chase the body. And if you go to the gym, and I did this, I go to the best health club in Houston, the most expensive one, a lot of wealthy people there, and I asked the trainers, what do these good-looking women do to get good looking? They said, well, 99% of them start good looking and thin. It's not the exercise that did it. And if the rare one gets any better, it's only because of the weights. It's 100% zero from the cardio nonsense. And I know the nutritionists and all the doctors are going to be up in arms. I'm telling you right now, you want opinion, you're going to go down the wrong path. You want science. It is so easy. You don't need to make exercise a second job. This is made up nonsense.
Now, some of these diets that are out there that are being sold to people actually hinder any kind of weight training you would want to do, correct?
Yes. There's no science whatsoever. They typically take a guy that has exercise as their primary job. It's some good-looking guy or gal model, and you're never going to get those results. You never do.
Professor Food, Brian Todd on the air with us. The website, professorfood.com, is number 888-755-HEAL. That's 755 888-866-4325. And I want to get back to the holiday mode here. We do binge around the holidays because and it seems like, food comes in cycles. We have the appetite. My mother comes out with the best deviled eggs you'd ever want to put down your throat. And boy, there's the deviled eggs, and then there's little snacks over here, and my favorite, celery filled with real cream cheese. God, I love that stuff too. And then you take a little break, and then you sit down to the holiday dinner, and then you gorge yourself, and then here comes the desserts. And then a half hour later, you're watching football, and by God, a turkey sandwich sounds really good right now.
Yep.
That's okay.
You can eat all you want. Now, you have something called an appetite. You will get full if you eat the right food. The problem with the carbs is, but you can't eat just one. Eat one cookie, what do you want? 10. Eat 10 cookies, what do you want? Another 20. The difference with that and a protein or fat is the more I eat, the less I want. The more steak I eat, I don't want more steak and more steak and more steak. I want less. I'm full. So the key is to understand the science of what you're eating. And remember, the protein cannot go to body fat either. I didn't tell you that. Two things. 70% of the protein you eat gets burned up. So I eat a 1 pound of turkey or 1 pound of ham or 1 pound of whatever meat it is. I'm left with 4 ounces, almost nothing. And of those 4 ounces, protein cannot go to fat. I hear this time and time again from some insane nutritionists, and I always ask them, Gene, give me the medical textbook reference that protein can go to fat. I'm 100% successful because none of them ever have, because it can't. The medical textbooks always will tell you protein cannot get converted into fat. No one knows this, and America is getting fatter and sicker by the day, Jeff, because we're eating the diet for a cow or a sheep. So people, please look in the mirror. If you don't see a cow looking back at you, it doesn't have 4 stomachs. You don't have 4 stomachs that the cow needs to eat the grass and to eat the carbs. Same thing with the sheep. They have an 8.5-gallon stomach, by the way, a sheep. They're not much bigger than us. Their stomach is 8.5 gallons. Ours is a quart.
Wow. Man, I'm telling you, Professor, we've only got about 6 minutes left here, and I'm sure we could probably do 3 shows with you. And I know coming up in the new year, we're going to do a show with you on New Year's resolutions and the people that do their thing on I want to lose weight in the new year. But getting back to the holidays here, you've convinced me, man. But one question I want to ask you.
You're never bloated eating the fat and the protein, are you? You eat 2 bagels. Here's a test everybody can do. You don't need to believe a word out of my mouth. And actually, Jeff, I don't want you to. I just want you to go, man, this guy sounds really strong, and he's giving scientific references other people don't give. Eat 2 bagels, go to bed. Eat at 10 or 11 at night. 2 bagels, this is your no-fat, perfect thing for the carb guys. Make them organic if you want. I don't care what the heck they are. 2 bagels, go to sleep. I guarantee you will be up in the middle of the night, thirsty as the dickens, and feel like a brick is in your stomach. The next night, eat just a steak. No potato, nothing else. Just a 1-pound steak, 10 or 11 at night. You will not believe the difference. You won't be up in the middle of the night. You'll wake up at 6 a.m., raring to go. You do your own test, and something has got to go, man, how am I getting this result here? What's up? Well, I give you the science in the Science of Great Health program.
Well, Professor, you keep talking about the proteins, and again, one of my favorite, steak. But it almost sounds like you may be on the side of the Atkins diet there.
Oh, Atkins was much right than wrong. He didn't have the science, though. He could never tell you. For example, I never heard him say there's no saturated fat in a clogged artery. And by the way, that was also repeated in 2001 all the time. It was repeated in 3 major medical journals, but the physicians are so busy treating patients, they don't have time to read the darn journals. And then a lot of stuff, it just gets in the way. They don't have the time. So they're at the mercy of the nonsense just like you and me are. And what most people need to know, Jeff, is the average physician lives 10 years less than their patients. They don't have a secret bag of tricks over in the side, hey, the doctors know this, but we're going to give the darn patients that. No, they're doing the same darn thing as you, and they're living 10 years less than you.
Well, let me ask you real quick before
the blind leading the blind.
Before we let you go. When it comes to the holiday eating, it seems like because everybody's off work, we have more time for a big breakfast. It seems the tradition in my family is Mom would do the big egg casserole that's got cheese and sausage in it.
Perfect.
And because I'm going on the protein side of things now, would I be better off having that or not having any breakfast? Because, my God, I'm going to be sitting at the holiday table in 5 hours, and I want to make sure I got an empty stomach so I can enjoy everything.
Well, I'm not big on breakfast. I almost never eat it. I eat no more than twice a day because I figured out how to get rid of the cravings, and it's tied to these oils, and a lot of my program tells you that's the first thing, how to get rid of the cravings. But if you can miss a meal, you're better off missing it, and that means you can eat a lot more because you'll be hungrier. But if you want to eat a lot, protein number 1, fat number 2, carbohydrates last on the list. And I tell you, you will have no problem. So what I do for bread, because there's always bread at, holiday time.
Oh, homemade rolls.
Crust.
Oh, homemade rolls, man. I'm not passing that up.
Oh, no, they're good. But I take the crust and put real butter on them and give the middle to the bird or something. I don't want it. I put real whipped cream on the pudding or on the pie. I don't eat much of the crust. Actually, I make a crust with almonds. So I grind up almonds and butter. You don't have the carbs. So there's a lot of tricks to eat the right stuff, and it actually tastes better than the carbs. Like I have a pudding. It's called the Professor's Pudding. You will not believe how great it is. You want the kids around dinner time. You put this there. There's almost no sugar. There's a pile of protein, and it fills you up, not out. So it's really cool when you get the science.
All right, now let's talk about sugars real quick. Again, back to the desserts around the holiday table. The pumpkin pie's loaded with sugar. I mean, come on, when you make an apple pie, you're putting a bunch of brown sugar and allspice and nutmeg in an apple pie. So what about those desserts? I mean, I can have that, right? Please don't tell me I can't.
Sugar is sugar, Jeff. It doesn't matter if it's brown or organic. It doesn't matter. Sugar is sugar, and a carbohydrate is sugar. So brown organic rice, even though it's not sweet, even though the bagel is not sweet, is sugar. The average plate of pasta is 10 teaspoons of sugar. If you don't know this, you're going to kill yourself. Now, it's not 0, because I went over to Italy to see how much pasta these guys are eating. They live on pasta. No, they don't. It's a little side dish. And by the way, Italy now is starting to follow America's great advice on nutrition and health. They have a diabetes epidemic over there.
Wow.
It's hitting them. The biggest diabetes group, by the way, is India. The South Indians.
Well, they're vegetarians. Majority of them are vegetarians in India.
Got it, Jeff. Vegetarians are the number 1 diabetic population in the world. I'm telling your audience, Jeff, if they don't get this science, heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and exhaustion, and of course you're going to get cancer too, they're all tied together, is your future. It's easy to fix this. It's so easy, but you need the science.
All right, Professor Food, Brian Todd, the website, professorfood.com, the number 888-755-HEAL, HEAL, 888-755-4325. And Professor, just one more thing that I know you're probably going to laugh at when I say this, but isn't it amazing, and this is something that I've noticed as a consumer, isn't it amazing that all these products being shoved at us and advertised as fat-free, 100-cal pack and all this good stuff cost about 3 times as much as the original product?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Here's what I'll say in closing, Jeff. The problem of all the health and overweightness in America is given as its solution. The quote solution is actually the cause of the problem. Eat lots of carbs, eat no fat, and eat even less protein is the cause of the problem. It is 100% opposite. If I wanted to make everybody in America sick, I would give you the food pyramid, and I'd give you the recommendations your nutritionist or your physician's going to give you. They're killing you. When you get the science, your mouth will drop, and it'll be the best investment you can ever make. And you can eat the food you want. You're going to lose the cravings for the junk, because nature does not want to kill you.